It was a cold and quiet November night in a small town in Germany. A cemetery night watchman leans sleepily against his shovel, staving off sleep as the midnight breeze cascades through the silent graves. The night watchman was about to surrender into sleep when he gets startled by the faint tinkling of a bell. Convinced he was just hearing things, the night watchman nods back to sleep. Then the unmistakable tinkling sound of a bell can be heard again, this time a little bit more frantic. The night watchman, wide awake this time, followed the sound of the bell. The sound led him to a nearby grave, which indeed had a bell, except this bell had a string seemingly attached to a mechanism beneath the grave, or rather within the grave. With the bells ringing getting even more frantic, the night watchman grips his shovel and begins to dig at a quick and steady pace. As the earth gave way to reveal the coffin, sounds of muffled banging can be heard. With palpable apprehension, the night watchman pries the coffin open with his shovel to reveal a dishevelled yet very much alive man, gasping for air. Today, we're unearthing the eerie history of safety coffins. Have you ever heard of a special coffin that was invented in order to make sure that a person wasn't buried alive? Believe it or not, it was made because people were terrified of the very concept of being buried alive. Let's go back to the 18th and 19th centuries. Medicine wasn't what it is today, and confirming a death was a bit tricky. Sometimes people in comas or with certain illnesses were mistakenly pronounced dead, which was actually quite horrifying. This fear of being buried alive was aggravated in the mid-1800s when Edgar Allan Poe published works such as The Fall of the House of Usher, The Cask of Amontillado, and The Premature Burial, all of which contained accounts of supposedly genuine cases of premature burial, as well as detailing the narrator's own perceived interment while still alive. To combat this fear, inventors came up with the safety coffin, which was essentially a coffin with a cord attached to a bell that the interred person could ring should they revive after the burial. The first recorded safety coffin was constructed on the orders of Duke Ferdinand of Brunswick before his death in 1792. This safety coffin was designed to be extra safe, as he had a window installed to allow light in, an air tube to provide a supply of fresh air, and instead of having the lid nailed down, he had a lock fitted. In a special pocket of his shroud, he had two keys, one for the coffin lid and a second for the tomb door. In 1829, a system for safety coffins was developed using a secured bell which would alert the cemetery night watchman. Essentially, the corpse would have strings attached to its hands, head and feet, and housing around the bell above ground prevented it from ringing accidentally. The housing prevented rainwater from running down the tube that protected the strings, and netting prevented insects from entering the coffin. If the bell rang, the watchman had to insert a second tube and pump air into the coffin with a bellows to allow the occupant to survive until the casket could be dug up. Fast forward to 1995, a modern safety coffin was designed to include an emergency alarm, intercom system, a flashlight, breathing apparatus, and both a heart monitor and stimulator. If you're thinking that this process is utterly tedious and ridiculous, well, you're right. It's because despite the fear of burial while still alive, there are no known documented cases of anybody being saved by a safety coffin. Modern embalming techniques also ensure that whoever is certified dead remains certified. So the next time you pass by or visit a loved one in a cemetery, remember the fear people had of being buried alive and the lengths they went through to quell these fears. Thanks for joining us on this macabre yet intriguing historical journey into safety coffins. Don't forget to like and share if you enjoyed learning about safety coffins. Catch you next time, and don't get buried alive.